What is up, people, pedestrians, and pine cones? This is the one, the only Vinyl Casket, and I'm here with my first ever anime review. So, like my other couple reviews that I've done on TV shows, this is going to be a in-depth review of a pretty new Netflix original anime film. Um, Before we get into that, uh, if you're watching on Twitch, please follow and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Get in the chat, get involved. If you're watching this later on YouTube, again, thank you very much. It is at the Vinyl Casket. Subscribe, comment, like, everything helps. And then if you want on Instagram, I got two of them. We got at Vinyl Casket and at Vinyl Casket Comics, and on Twitter at Vinyl Casket. Definitely help out, support. I really will appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. And we're going to get right into this. So we're going to drop those. Oh, mouse. Why is this mouse is such a... We're going to drop those. And boom, right into it. So we're going to be talking about Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway. So this is the first of three movies, Netflix original anime movies adapting the, I believe, light novel Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway's Flash. This first one dropped this year, 2021, through Netflix. It is both dubbed and subbed. I watched it dubbed. You know, don't give me a hard time about it, but yeah, I watched it dubbed. Um, did I think it took anything away watching it dubbed? A little bit, but not that bad. Um, we'll get into that. Yeah, I might be a little harsh on it, but in the long run, it wasn't that bad. Um, so with that being said, if you don't know, I am a besides being a huge anime fan, I am a massive Gundam fan. Like Gundam is the anime that got me into anime. Like to the point where we got we got model kits, you know, and mostly Universal Century is my thing. So this was the perfect like thing to drop. You know, I got the new Gundam right here. So this, as I'll say when I start talking about where this falls in the timeline, this falls pretty much directly after events from that. We got manga, we got the Gundam Origins Volume 2, we got, you know, all sorts of anime, we got series, we got movies, we got, you know, OVAs. So we got what? I got War in the Pocket. We got Stardust Memory. We got Gundam Narrative and Zeta. So as you can tell, this isn't something that I take lightly. This is something that I've been in love with since childhood. So whenever these new Gundam stuff comes out, I'm very involved. I take it very seriously. I get very involved. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, so we'll get right into that. So, we're gonna start. I usually give like a breakdown of how my review is gonna go. We're gonna talk about the animation, the voice acting, the soundtrack. Then we'll talk about um, how this falls into the Universal Century, which is the specific timeline universe in the Gundam franchise that these main movies take up. There's multiple different centuries, which are basically different timelines. Uh, uh, basically different timelines that these different movies take up, and they exist in different universes, different centuries. Um, we're gonna talk about where that falls in. The movies in between it and where what it touches on. I'll talk a little bit about the characters, the main characters, because there's a lot of like characters that do not matter yet. Maybe they'll matter in the next uh movie. Who knows? And then I'll discuss the story a little bit, and I'll give it a rating. Um, okay, so all right, so the animation. Uh, I'm gonna say it was excellent, but I'm also gonna have some small gripes. So it was excellent for a Gundam movie. It fit perfectly in line. It was modern. The animation was super modern, up to date, um, and it was in the exact same style and the same detail as uh, Narrative and Unicorn, which are the other newest movies and shows. Um, so that stuff was on term. So out of the last couple of releases from the Gundam franchise, that was pretty much on point, the standard that's been set so far. So it hasn't deviated and it didn't fall under. So that's good. Um, Everything was pretty fluid. Action sequences, basic transitioning, movements, character. Everything was pretty fluid. It was basic. It's the standard that we have come to expect in this modern age, right? Uh, but at the same time, there was nothing breathtaking. It was still enjoyable. It was still awesome. I loved every second of what I was watching, but nothing over the top. And as a kid, as I was growing up, when even a couple years ago, when I'd watch Gundam stuff that I'd never seen before, everything feels so breathtaking. And in this, it was kind of underwhelming in the sense that it was like, oh, that's really cool, but like it hits that really cool, and then usually it takes off and it does something crazy. And I'm assuming that because this is part of like a three-part thing, when they're watched in concession, I will have that feeling because this first movie will just be the build up, the opening into the whole bigger picture, and then everything will start running. And I feel like that kind of hurt it a little bit in terms of animation style. Well, in terms of like the aim of what the animation was doing, the actual animation, not the style, but the actual things that were being animated, kind of left me desiring a little bit more. Um, Voice acting, the dub was okay, right? I didn't really watch the sub at all, but the dub was okay. Um, I just felt like the English voices were a little bit underwhelming. I think the matchup and everything, the mouth movements, everything was synced. Everything felt pretty good. Um, just the overall emotion and delivery from the English voice cast left me wanting more. There was a couple scenes where the drama and the dramatics and everything matched throughout the cast, but then there was scenes where only one or two people kind of matched, and everything else was kind of like not not there. Like I needed a little bit more enthusiasm or distress from these voice actors, and it just wasn't there. It was good. It got its point across, but again, this is another thing where I feel like it's gonna hurt making this one big event into three movies. Um, so directly into soundtrack. Nothing out of this world. It fit the piece. It matches the franchise. You know, the whole space big robot thing. It has that tone, that mood. It follows that. You know, it takes the highs and the lows. The climaxes could have built up a little bit more. There could have been a little bit more build up. The music during those fight scenes could have been a little bit more intense. Nothing that stood out traumatically, but nothing that stood out because it was bad. Just like middle ground. Um, and overall, when all these, I'm complaining a little bit, but the animation, the voice acting, the soundtrack, when they're all mixed together, you don't really notice that it wasn't stupendous. And it might be because I've watched so much and I'm so heavily involved that I'm comparing it to stuff, especially things that came out recently, like Narrative, like last year, 2019, when Narrative came out, and I was so excited and it was so, you know, progressive. This was like, okay, just as good, just a little bit under, but didn't hit that note where Narrative was so good, and probably because Narrative was so close to it, it kind of set the bar just a tad too high, so it couldn't hit it, and it didn't go past it, so that it just felt like it was so much under. Um, but yeah, I feel like they could have amped up the music track a little bit more. Um, and then okay, so we're into how this connects to the Universal Century. So this story takes place in UC Universal Century 0105, which is about 12 years after the events of Char's Counterattack, which is a movie that took place in UC 0097. No, 93. And in between, they reference Char's Counterattack as the rebellion over and over as Char's Rebellion a lot. And the reason is the main character, Hathaway Noah, originally appeared in, I think, Zeta, Double Zeta, and Char's Counterattack. So he had his first debut in those shows and that movie, and that set the ground for what he's doing in this movie, which I'll talk about later on. Um, well, next up is how that movie influences that character. So they reference that a lot. So it's 12 years after, but in those 12 years, um, the events of Unicorn and Narrative happen in respectively in UC 0096 and 0097. So what confuses me is just the what's the word, evolution of the Gundam designs. So from the original Gundam stuff, with the Mark, with the RX-78. Uh, you have that. You have the Mark II. You have the ground type, the Mark II. The Easy 8. Then you get the Zeta Gundam, and then you get Double Zeta. Then you get the new Gundam, right? That's like the transgression of this stuff. You also have all the stuff in you have the Gundams in 0083, and you have the Alex in War in the Pocket. So you get to see all these different Gundams, and they slowly transgress into that like slim model, whatever. But then when you get to Zeta, it gets a little bit heftier, a little bit wider around the chest. Then Double Zeta adds all that extra armor, right? And then you skip from Double Zeta to the new Gundam. And the new Gundam is big, sleek, huge, massive, taller than all the other Gundams. That's just this sleek but huge thing, right? And then Unicorn, Phoenix, and Banshee are all in that similar new Gundam style, where they're all really tall, really, but not super wide around the chest or anything. They all have Phoenix and Banshee have like backpacks and stuff that extend on them. But like they're all kind of in the same style as the original Gundam and the new Gundam, right? We ditch the whole wide around the chest, big, heavy Gundam that we saw in Zeta Double Zeta. And then in this here, we get this. Boom. So this is the Penelope, right? This is the Penelope Gundam. This is the first Gundam we see, piloted by a character I'll talk about. Um, this is the first Gundam, and what I'm going to tell you right now is that this is like a sleek, like Zeta style Gundam underneath all this armor and this big flight contraption, right? This whatever, this particle flight suit, right? And from the research I've done in the past, I'm pretty sure that suit can come off and you have a different Gundam underneath, right? So that's what we're getting, which is screams Zeta vibes. But this happens after the new Gundam, after the three Gundams from Unicorn, Phoenix, and Banshee. So, you know, it takes the ideas and the development of the Double Zeta more than 12 years prior and puts it into this. And I thought, okay, maybe we'll get another Gundam. Because I try to stay away from any, I've known this stuff existed, but I try to stay away and, empty my brain and then go into this fresh. You get this, which is the XI Gundam, right? This is the Gundam piloted by Hathaway Noah. And again, same as the Penelope, they have super similar designs. And this is supposed to be the more advanced version than the Penelope. This is Gundam XI and screams Double Zeta Zeta. It just both these suits. And I just feel like if they're not going to mention that these were developed around the same time as the Double Zeta, came out of Double Zeta, had something to do with Double Zeta, I'm going to be very upset because we just spent, Char's counterattack happen, right? Then we do like two big movies, Unicorn being like a kind of a mini series, leading towards this movie of these big Gundams like the new Gundam. In Char's counterattack, we have the new Gundam, we have all these big, tall, sleek Gundams. Then we go back to shorter, wider, stockier Gundams with the XI and the Penelope. Design wise, I think they're both cool. But I didn't expect them to, both be like this. But they're sick, so we get over it. Okay, now we get right into the characters. So I'm only going to touch on like 4 characters, which is only 4 characters you really need to know. So obviously, main character is Hathaway Noah. He is the son of Commander Bright Noah from the original Gundam series. I'm pretty sure he's involved in all the the original Gundam stuff, all those original movies. He's involved in Zeta and I believe Double Zeta, and I'm pretty sure he's a part of Char's counterattack, right? Awesome character. He's a classic character. His son was featured in those later things and is seen piloting a suit during Char's rebellion, right? That would spark this new terrorist viewed movement known as MAFTI. MAFTI is led by a guy named Mafti Nov Aaron, which is Hathaway Noah, which inspired directly by Char to do this. So that's crazy. Then we have Kenneth Slegg, which is the new commander of this Earth Federation task force or this base, who is dead set on bringing down MAFTI, which is a huge organization. Then you have Lane Aim. Lane Aim is a brand new pilot. He pilots the Penelope. I'm almost positive. Oh, Hathaway Noah is a new type. And I'm almost positive that they mentioned that Lane Aim is also a new type. And the next character, and Lane Aim is super young, is Gigi Andalucia. Andalucia. That name is super familiar. I don't know where else. I know there's a G Gundam character with that last name. But we also, we have her. She this kind of wealthy looking noble person that's kind of floating around. I'm almost positive she's a new type because she keeps predicting stuff and seeing things that other people can't see. She's going to play a huge role later on. I have a feeling. And then we get straight into the story. All right, story. Boom. Let's get into this. This is a pretty solid story. Um, you know, so I'll go through the basics real quick. So we're introduced to Mafty and what's going on, and that there's been leaked news that he was going to attack a shuttle full of all these diplomats. On the shuttle is Mafty himself, which is uh Hathaway and the two Kenneth and Gigi, all going to Earth, right? Mafty's whole thing is that life shouldn't be on Earth anymore, and humans are killing Earth. You know, the classic thing. So we have all that. Um, there's people claiming to be Mafty that aren't Mafty, causing all problems across the universe. Uh, Hathaway is able to save them and eliminate the threat because they get attacked by people pretending to be Mafty. And then Kenneth spends this whole like week trying to figure out what's going on because he's suspicious of Hathaway. He tries to recruit him, whatever. Everyone's suspicious of each other. They find out. Gigi finds out that he is the Noah it that Hathaway Noah is Mafty. Then he goes and whatever, and he gets his mobile suit, and then there's this big fight. This There's a couple smaller fights. They're not that cool. The one big Gundam fight at the end with the two Gundams is the only real selling point, and it's because this movie is literally one of three. It it really suffers from being a three-part thing. It hurts, and I know Gundam loves to do this. They did this with Origins and all sorts of stuff. It just makes the first thing kind of suffer because it's the one that brings you most of the character development. And it's slow and it's a little bit boring. There's not as much fight scenes, but I bet you the next one that comes out is just going to be stellar. Um, but yeah, this is pretty good. Um, the action wasn't spread out enough for my liking, but whatever. Uh, the first few mobile suit fights are very underwhelming because you can barely make out what's going on. Especially the first time we get to see the Gundam, we don't even realize that it's a Gundam. Um, the last fight left me indifferent because it was cool, but at the same time, they definitely purposely left room to really shell shock us. Um, yeah, and we're purposely left without any conclusive information, and that kind of just leads into what's gonna, the next one. Um, and like I said, I don't have, I'm not gonna super spoil. I'm not gonna go exactly what happened. It's not that kind of review. It's not that kind of movie. I can't wait to review the other two parts. I can't wait to come out. It's gonna be a good trilogy, right? Um, the character development is there. Animation is there. I have a feeling because you could see the potential. So I just gonna keep saying it. It suffered from being part one. That once you watch all three parts, you're not gonna complain about anything I'm complaining about. I'm gonna give it like a out of 10. I'm gonna give it a 7. Right? I could come back after I watch the second part and say, hey, this is an 8, but I'm gonna give it a 7. Uh, Let me know where you feel. Did you watch it? Are you going to watch it? How was it in your opinion? Do you think it suffered from being part one of three? Uh, did you like the mobile suit designs? Did you not? Did you want more of narrative or unicorn? Let me know in the comments. DM me on Instagram, whatever you want. Uh, this has been the Vinyl Casket. Home of the lamest taste. Follow me on Instagram at Vinyl Casket Comics, Vinyl Casket, on YouTube at The Vinyl Casket. Please subscribe, like, and comment down below. Also, follow on and subscribe on Twitch. It really helps out. Watch the live content. Thank you very much and have a great day. Stay lame. Woo!